Picture this: private jets, champagne on a yacht, a row of Lamborghinis, and meals literally covered in gold leaf. Now, imagine it all vanishing in a flash of red and blue lights as news headlines scream, "Crypto empire implodes," $1.8 billion vanishes, and "global Ponzi scheme exposed." The face of this empire was a man presented as a tech visionary, a crypto genius, and a self-made billionaire. Turns out, he was a complete fabrication. But the most shocking part of this story isn't the unbelievable size of the scam. It's what this man, the fake CEO, did after the whole thing came crashing down. It all started with a simple casting call. In the wild, electrifying world of cryptocurrency, fortunes are made and lost in a heartbeat. It's a digital frontier that attracts dreamers, innovators, and, of course, predators. This is where our story starts, with two men who understood the power of a dream: an Australian entrepreneur named Sam Lee and his partner, Ryan Zhu. Lee and Zhu weren't new to crypto. They were the founders of a collapsed Australian company, Blockchain Global, which went under in 2021, leaving a $58 million hole in the pockets of creditors and customers. But they had already moved on to something much bigger. Their goal wasn't just another company, it was a whole new digital reality. In June 2020, they launched their grand vision, Hyperfund. It wasn't just an investment, it was an invitation to a new world. They promised to build a sprawling metaverse called the Hyperverse, a perfect virtual world. Inside this digital universe, investors, or voyagers, could explore, socialize, and, most importantly, earn a lot of money. The promise was hypnotic. Hyperfund offered returns that seemed to defy logic: 0.5% to 1% per day on your investment. They claimed these profits came from vast cryptocurrency mining operations and deals with Fortune 500 companies, a cocktail of buzzwords designed to sound revolutionary and bulletproof. But this vision wasn't marketed to Wall Street bankers. It was aimed at ordinary people: teachers, retirees, and factory workers, many in developing nations across Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. Promoters held financial revolution world tours, selling a dream of financial freedom to people who craved it most. In Nepal, the pitch was so effective that people took out bank loans to invest. When the platform collapsed, some were left feeling suicidal. The whole thing was a classic multi-level marketing scheme. Investors were heavily pushed to recruit new members to earn bonuses, creating an army of evangelists who believed they were on the ground floor of the next big thing. But the masterminds, Lee and Zhu, stayed in the shadows. They knew that to turn millions into billions, their perfect virtual world needed a perfect face. It needed a CEO. And since a real one wouldn't work, they decided to just create one. Every multi-billion-dollar scam needs a face the public can trust. By 2021, Sam Lee and Ryan Zhu had a money-making engine, but it was faceless. Operating from places like Dubai, they needed a charismatic Western frontman who could sell the dream with unshakable confidence. They needed someone who looked the part of a billionaire tech genius. Their search didn't take them to Silicon Valley, but to Thailand and to a man named Steve Harrison. Steve-O, as he was known, was about as far from a billionaire CEO as you could get. He was a middle-aged English actor and TV presenter, taking gigs where he could to pay the bills. One day, a friend connected him with a talent agency for a corporate presenter role. The details were vague, but the pay was decent. Read a few scripts on camera for a new tech company. Steve was a bit suspicious, but his agent reassured him, and after a quick online search, he took the job. And right here, the gears of this massive deception started to grind into motion. The company gave Steve Harrison a new name, Stephen Reese Lewis, and a spectacular, completely fake backstory. According to Hyperverse, Stephen Reese Lewis was a graduate of Cambridge, had a master's from the University of Leeds, and started his IT company at Goldman Sachs. He was also a tech prodigy who supposedly sold his IT startup to Adobe for millions. It was the perfect resume, and every single word was a lie. For playing this fictional titan of industry, Steve Harrison was paid just 180,000 Thai baht over 9 months, roughly $5,000 US. For that price and a free suit, Hyperkek had bought themselves a billionaire CEO. Harrison was just an actor hired for a role. He was sent scripts, read his lines, and collected his paycheck, completely unaware that the words he was speaking were the siren song for one of the largest pyramid schemes in history. He had no idea his face was being used as the seal of approval on a fraud that would devastate hundreds of thousands of lives.
With their new CEO ready, the masterminds rebranded. In December 2021, Hyperfund migrated to a new platform, Hyperverse. The launch was a spectacular online event. On a slick virtual stage, an MC announced the dawn of the next new beginning. And then, Stephen Rees-Lewis appeared. Sharp in his new suit, he spoke with the polished authority of a seasoned exec about building a perfect virtual world. His performance was flawless. He was credible, inspiring, and completely believable. The launch was a huge success. The rebranding worked, breathing new life into the scheme and distracting from the growing red flags. An official-looking Twitter account was even made in Lewis's name, cementing the digital ghost into a seemingly real person. With a handsome CEO at the helm, the Hyperverse machine went into overdrive. The system was built on recruitment, and an army of promoters fanned out across the globe. Two of the most prominent were Brenda Chunga, aka Bitcoin Beauty, and Rodney Burton, or Bitcoin Rodney. Burton flaunted an insane lifestyle in his videos: luxury cars, diamond watches, and even gold-wrapped sausages as proof of Hyperverse's power. Chunga, who later admitted to getting at least $3 million from the fraud, used her own lavish spending to recruit others. Early investors, paid with money from new recruits, would post screenshots of their daily rewards, creating a feedback loop of hype that convinced friends and family to join. From 2020 to 2022, the scheme pulled in an incredible amount of money. The U.S. Securities and Commission Exchange, SEC, alleged it raised over $1.7 billion, while the Department of Justice cited an even higher number, $1.89 billion. All the while, regulators in the UK and New Zealand had issued public warnings against Hyperfund, flagging it as a potential pyramid scheme. But promoters dismissed these warnings as FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and many investors believed them. To add another layer of legitimacy, the scammers even paid celebrities like actor Chuck Norris and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak on Cameo for personalized video messages. These clips were then used to assure skeptical investors that Hyperverse was the real deal. Behind the curtain, however, there were no crypto mining operations. The only real revenue was the constant flow of money from new investors. As the director of the SEC's enforcement division later said, the only thing that Hyperfund mined was its investors' pockets. It was a colossal house of cards, destined to collapse from the very beginning. Call to action, mid-roll. It's terrifying to see how a charismatic face and a slick presentation could be used to pull off a nearly $2 billion fraud. Stories like this are a powerful reminder of how vulnerable we all are to sophisticated scams. If you want to learn how to spot these schemes and protect yourself, take a second to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Now, back to the story. Every Ponzi scheme has a fatal flaw. They need more and more new money to survive. Eventually, they all run out. The first tremors hit in mid-2022. Across Telegram and Facebook, investors started reporting that they couldn't make withdrawals. The daily rewards that had once been so reliable slowed, then stopped completely. The cash out button was now a dead end. Panic turned to terror. The official Hyperverse websites went down for maintenance and never came back. The unspoken promoters either vanished or offered empty promises. For hundreds of thousands of people, the dream had become a nightmare. Their life savings were gone. As the digital empire crumbled, journalists at The Guardian started pulling at the threads of the story. The most obvious thread was the CEO himself, Stephen Rees-Lewis. They checked with the University of Leeds and Cambridge, but there were no records of him. They searched employee archives at Goldman Sachs and Adobe. His name was nowhere. The man who was the face of a multi-billion-dollar company appeared to be a ghost. The investigation eventually led them to Thailand, where they found not a billionaire CEO, but a bewildered English actor named Steve Harrison. The reporters presented him with the evidence, the fake biography, the scale of the fraud, the victims who had lost everything. Harrison was stunned. He'd been hired for a simple acting gig and had no idea his face was being used to legitimize a global pyramid scheme. He was just a pawn in a game whose stakes he couldn't have imagined. The discovery was a bombshell. It was public proof that the entire leadership of Hyperverse was a sham. The king was an actor. The castle was made of sand. But the most shocking part was what this actor decided to do next. He could have hidden or denied everything. Instead, he chose to talk.
Instead of hiding, Steve Harrison stepped into the light and told his story. He gave detailed interviews to The Guardian and other outlets, laying out the truth of his limited involvement. He explained how he was paid about $5,000 and given a suit to play the part of Stephen Rees-Lewis. He confirmed he had no contact with the real masterminds and no control over the company or the Twitter account run in his name. He was just an actor, now horrified to learn the consequences of his performance. His remorse was raw. "I am sorry for these people," he told reporters, "because they believed some idea with me at the forefront, and God knows what these people have lost. And I do feel bad about this. I do feel deeply sorry." Harrison's confession was the nail in Hyperverse's coffin. It blew the case wide open and galvanized law enforcement. With the fraud undeniable, the walls began to close in. In January 2024, the U.S. Department of Justice and the SEC announced a series of charges. Bitcoin Rodney Burton was arrested in Florida. Brenda Bitcoin Beauty pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit securities and wire fraud. Court documents revealed she received at least $3 million from the fraud, which she used to fund her extravagant lifestyle. As part of a settlement, she agreed to pay back ill-gotten gains and faces up to 5 years in prison. The foot soldiers of the pyramid had been captured. Now the hunt was on for the men at the very top. With the promoters facing justice, the investigation zeroed in on the 2 men at the top of the pyramid, Sam Lee and Ryan Yu. In January 2024, the U.S. Attorney's Office charged Lee with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and securities fraud. The SEC also filed a civil complaint against him. The charges accused Lee and his co-conspirators of orchestrating a $1.89 billion fraud. At the time, Lee was believed to be in Dubai. After an Interpol red notice was issued, the pressure mounted. In November 2024, Sam Lee voluntarily surrendered to authorities in Dubai and was reportedly detained for 60 days before being released. In a defiant video interview after his release, Lee denied any wrongdoing. As of late 2025, while the criminal and civil cases against him in the U.S. proceed, his ultimate fate is still being litigated. The status of his co-founder, Ryan Yu, is even murkier. Despite being a key figure, Yu was not named in the U.S. indictments, and his current whereabouts are largely unknown. And what about the victims? For the hundreds of thousands who poured their savings into Hyperverse, the arrests offer moral satisfaction but little hope of financial relief. Experts say the chances of recovering the money are slim to none. The funds were laundered through a complex web of crypto exchanges, and the money trail is a labyrinth of digital dead ends. The story of Hyperverse is a brutal lesson in modern fraud. It shows how easily a convincing story, amplified by social media, can overwhelm skepticism. It also shows the power of a face, that a credible-looking CEO, even one bought for a few $1,000s, can be the key to unlocking nearly $2 billion. The man hired to be that face, Steve Harrison, unwittingly became the catalyst for the scheme's undoing. His decision to speak out provided the human proof of a crime that was bewildering in its complexity. He wasn't the hero the company invented, but in the end, his honesty helped expose the real villains. Conclusion. So what's the takeaway from this unbelievable saga? The story of Hyperverse is a chilling case study in the architecture of deception. The masterminds didn't just create a fraudulent company, they built an entire alternate reality, complete with a visionary leader and a legion of devoted followers. The key to the illusion was the fake CEO. For the price of a used car, they bought a persona of impeachable credibility. This highlights a deeply unsettling truth. Authenticity itself can be manufactured and sold. A face, a resume, and a confident delivery can be more persuasive than hard data. The actor's confession serves as a bizarre bookend to the fraud. He was the lie that made it all work, and his honesty was the truth that brought it crashing down. While the masterminds count their fortunes and the victims count their losses, his story is a stark reminder of the human element at the heart of even the most high-tech scams. It makes you wonder, in a world of deepfakes and fake profiles, what is authenticity really worth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If this story shocked you, please hit the like button and share it to help spread awareness. For more investigations into the frauds that shape our world, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Stay safe out there.